Make them more.
Right.
Oh.
Right. Good morning, everybody.
People.
I am Rich Chamberlain, practice leader for GIS up in the AECOM Denver office. And want to introduce you guys to Tiffani and Weatherly. They'll come on camera here if they're not already and say hi. And we'll be tag teaming the couple slides that we've got. But we're excited to share some of our work. This is very much drafty. And we're looking for some solid audience participation virtually and there in person best we can at the end, because we could use some help. I'll put it that way on where to take this application and make it better. We're excited to show you this stuff. Let's get going here. A little background and history. I'm gonna turn off myself real quick here, just to paint a picture. So our engineers and geotechnical staff visit mines all over in North America. And this kind of work is done in support of mine operations and construction activities and regulatory needs, permitting, and what have you. And the sites are very much a variety. Big mines, small mines, active ones, closed. The visits are all over the place. Some of them are in the high mountains, like out here. You know, they can only go in the summer or maybe twice a year if they're lucky, others monthly. And so every site has a different need, and they're inspecting a variety of things. I'm not going to go through all that list, but it's a lot of standard stuff. If you ever work with folks that do this kind of work, they're looking for issues. And sometimes there's a construction project that, you know, there is going on there, and that we're helping to, you know, look at that progress and make sure things are okie dokie. But I've worked in the mining area for a long time, supporting those teams. And so I've never really got into the details on how this stuff works, but you know, the three of us are getting there, and very quickly. So I'm going to move on to the next slide here. So a little bit more background and history here. One thing, when we sat down with the teams that do this, it's multiple teams. It was pretty clear that despite all the differences in what they're looking at in the various sites that they head to, they take a lot of photos, lots and lots of photos. We'll talk more about those in a second. So I'm going to hand it over to Weatherly, and she's going to finish the rest of this slide off. Take it away, Weatherly.
Hey, I also just wanted to say, I think, Rich, your slideshow is still showing the first screen for me. It's showing the background history first page.
You can also make it in presentation mode if you'd like to.
That is odd. Because
Is it projecting on your screen? Yeah.
Let me do.
Sharing the wrong screen. Happens to me all the time.
Hold on a second here. I was sharing the right screen. That looked better. That should be the slide that we're currently on.
Looking better. Let me make sure that it's.
Let me go into presentation mode as well.
There we go. Now we got
is that right? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah. So how can the GIS team assist in this? So the main key points that we were kind of looking at from the GIS perspective is how it's crucial for how this field data in terms of like notes made at different geographic locations in the field, and like how those are collected and then in turn stored. So yeah, we were just thinking like, how can we help the field teams be smarter and more efficient in the field and after they return into the office? So, you know, part of that is, how is that data being stored currently? Like, what are we looking at from previous examples? And right now they're kind of stored in these big, kind of loosely organized folders where it's maybe for one quarter, it's organized by the photographer who was out in the field. And then during the next quarter, it's organized by which photos are reduced versus full size. And there are also quite a few duplicates. It can be a little scattered, and there's a bit of digging that needs to happen in order to find the photos that you're looking for. So yeah, this would just, like, especially with the collection of the photos in the field through like a field maps app, and you know, entering that like key data, like as you're collecting that photo, it kind of like already attaches some like keywords and you know, needed information to that photo. And then when we pull those photos in, there's, you know, more organization, more of a system for finding them more easily later. Managing the flow of data, the flow of field data and attachments. So, you know, how is the team keeping track of where these photos were taken? The folders right now don't have the photos organized by location. So currently, more or less, they need to look at the individual photos to determine where those photos were taken and in which direction they were facing. Establishing a historical context. So where were the field staff in the recent quarter, 5 years ago, just different points throughout the past. Currently, with the folder set up the way it is, with all of those current, or like all of those historical pictures, kind of as I was talking about earlier, there's really not a way to directly determine, you know, on the spot while you're out in the field, or even when you're sitting at your desktop, like, you know, there's no historical context there, unless you do some more digging. So this kind of like field map photo collection process, plus the photo viewer that we'll be talking about, gives you like a much quicker, more efficient way to recall that historical context and to place those photos in space. Yeah, and just look at how those individual locations have changed over the years, possibly. But yeah.
By the way, question. Are you saying that there's spatial temporal, finding out when something happened was as important as where?
I think it's definitely important. So like, you know, one of the attributes that would be attached to those photos is, you know, what quarter of what year they were taken in. And I don't really know if there's a hierarchy there. Like, I don't know if I would assume the location would be at least a little bit more important, but I think, you know, it's also important to be able to determine when the recent photos were taken, because, you know, if you come across a structure, because they're going to be at these old mine sites, and they're going to be looking at, they're going to be taking like these repeat trips to the same objects and structures on that site. So I think it's helpful to be able to look at that photo attachment from maybe last quarter or a year ago and see, you know, maybe there was like a crack there, and you can compare how it appears now to how it appeared last year. If that answers your question.
Cool. All right. Moving on here.
Hello. So one of the first steps we took to get started on like the physical application was we wanted to convert the CAD data. So we had an idea of the sections of the mine that we were working on. And so we converted the CAD, and something else that we also did was add mine sub areas so we could use them for like an automatic data collection when in the field. And we can talk about that a little more in the field maps part. So then after we converted the CAD data, we also, as Weatherly was talking about, went through the photos. We created a script to kind of go through all of the folders, see how many photos were in each folder, what kind of photo it was, whether it was reduced or an HEIC photo, because those all had to be handled differently. Something else we wanted to keep in mind with the photos was we wanted to use the reduced to keep our file size down. And so when we already came to us reduced, it didn't have geographic information that had been stripped. So what we did is we used the geographic information from the original photo and did a join on the name field so we could use the reduced photo in ArcGIS Pro. So we were able to attach the photos that way, and then we had a historic record of photos taken from each quarter, which could be used for, as Weatherly was saying, comparison when in the field, which was something that was asked for. And yeah, we were able to convert a lot of photos and see where we're going to go next.
Yeah, I think I'd add too that photos were kind of a mess, and every site manages their photos differently.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So one of the things we're going to be helping with is making sure everybody is, got a kind of better home base, for their photos. And we've visited these sites for going on, some of them for 15 or 20 years. So there may be no hope for this, but y'all know, you guys get it. It's like, you step into the mess and see what we can do in GIS to help things. So that's what we do many times, is fix things for folks. So, all right, awesome. Moving on here. So I'll take this slide, you guys. This is just a couple quick screen grabs of the field maps application. The image on the left is that map that we converted that Tiffani was just showing there in Pro, previous slide. This is what it looks like now in field maps. Pretty simple, setup. We decided to only allow them to collect points only. The idea here is to make this as simple and easy for the field team to use. And they had no experience with field maps whatsoever, nor with ArcGIS Online. They're knowledgeable about GIS in general because they work with folks like us. But the point is that keep it simple, stupid is what we really, really wanted to focus on. And that worked perfectly. We actually were able to stand up this FM application real quick. We did some arcade programming to auto-populate that site location field. That's that first one there. So depending on where they are, it's pretty cool. It just says, hey, you're in this part of the mine site. We figured we would add something like that just to help them be smarter when they got back to the office. They could figure out where their points really were. It's especially true of folks that they might pull on to the site that aren't familiar with the site. Maybe a junior engineer, to get them more comfy with what the work is and the layout, so to speak, of the site itself. So very few simple attributes, a comments field, and that's about it. And then of course the attachments, photos, videos, whatever they want to take. So it was a very successful first field trip. They took about 50, 60 points, and many of those have multiple attachments. So we did about 30 minutes, guys, of a training. very quick. And it was done virtually over Teams. That also was kind of interesting, but they got it, and that's testament, I think, to our experience in general, and just making sure this stuff works and works properly. This is a group slide, actually. This is our last slide. This is a short and sweet type presentation. I'm gonna go ahead and here in a second, actually share the instant app that we've got away from the slides. But before I do that, we need a better way, I should say, a better way to allow the users back in the office to surf their data, review the photos, select the photos they want for their reporting needs, add a caption to those photos in some kind of form, and have it all be in a nice user-friendly interface. The team would really love us to help with creating a photo log, which we have some ideas on, but we want to hear you guys' thoughts on that. And when you look at the app, if there's any other improvements that you think we can add, we are all ears on that too. Tiffani Weatherly, did you want to add in anything before we head over to the actual app? And we'll stay on that app and just kind of run it a little bit. You guys can see what we've got. But anything you guys want to add? Okay. Sweet. Let's see. Bear with me. I'm not a Google Meetup user, so. Present something else. Can you guys see the quick photo reviewer?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Great. So this is, one of the instant apps that Ezra's got, you can set up real quick. It's pretty simple. You just kind of hover over the picture. It highlights, selects the point over here in the map. Or you can do vice versa. You can select the point and have it look, take a look at the attachment and look at the attributes. It's right now, it's just a viewing application, but we really need them to edit into this thing, add a caption, for instance, or to tag a photo, like I said. I am happy to play around with this app just a little bit, but you guys have probably used this one. It's one of those instant apps, been around a long time. But it's not quite cutting it for us, I think. And I should say too, we're very early in this experiment with one field team of like 10 that we're going to eventually be working with. And we think we're onto a good thing, but this is where we need your help. So we are all ears. And Nathan, help me with your MC skills from the audience and online. And
yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to speak from my own experience, Rich, briefly. When I worked for Plumber, we did the collection of fiber optic systems for the University of Texas in Arlington. And we had lots and lots of indoor photos of closets and control rooms, and certainly lots of photos of outdoor vaults and handholds. And resolving all of those photos to be meaningful and to make that effective just for data connectivity, particularly, the connectivity and cabling within conduits from vault to closet was very confusing. But we had tons and tons of photos. So being able to resolve those photos was something we were continually looking for. I think it's probably common for a lot of fields where now we have access to lots of field photos. Now, what do we do with them? Because there's so many, we don't know what we're trying to accomplish necessarily with them. How can we use them most effectively? and I'm sure Brady has some ideas on this, but I do want to say that there are some third-party options, certainly that we looked at, and they included aerial sphere. Familiar with aerial sphere? They show those photos in context in GIS, so you can find in a 2D or in 3D where those photos lie, and that helps you give an orientation and a placement for where those things are. Yeah, time certainly is an issue. Seeing changes over time. Others, do you have thoughts and comments? A couple other products that come up here include Geo Imager and iSpatial Text Geotagged Photos widget. But I don't know, Brady, others.
A lower one, or maybe a less like full app system, is Broomfield rolled out to do something similar to this AO Docs, which is really mostly just a Google Drive overlay that makes document management or like metadata really thick, and it's super controllable through APIs, RESTful APIs, so you can do it with Python or any type of scripting integrated. And so we took that, integrated all of there. We actually, because when you attach large documents inside of Esri, it really can start bogging down your enterprise server if you have thousands upon thousands of attachments. So we actually pulled all their attachments out, put them into Google Drive, connected it through AO Docs using AO Docs metadata, and it worked really slick. But it's a metadata, so it would be like going through and taking each of these mine sites and telling them a new way to store their pictures, which, in working with the field in the past, could have mixed results. But if you've ever worked in the field, but it worked well for them, and I don't think the tool's real expensive, and it's not too intrusive. So that's just a real world rollout we did that's similar to this. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if
that's
your
awesome.
mining clients. Sorry, Rich. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I don't know if your mining clients have a need for, but at least in my experience too, we had some clients that wanted all of their photos on a drive, as well as attachments, and doing both those at the same time is a little bit challenging. So I agree, like having a URL connected photo library that then is geolocated by its relationship to the point features in GIS can be really effective. But what were you going to say, Rich, and anybody else about that?
Yeah, I want to add that this is an internal AECOM improvement process endeavor. So our client is actually not asking us to make this system. We just, the team in general, realizes that we could do better. And our mantra is to never have folks in the field without the ability to know, one, where they are. That's a health and safety thing first and foremost, but also be able to take pictures, figure out where they are, and tag them. It's just a no-brainer. So, we want to keep things in, within the Esri environment. And also, the photos that we're hoping to work with down the road, those historic photos that, Tiffani talked about, we want those to be the compressed version. Small itty bitty JPEGs, not the full version that's like 5 megs a piece, but one that's like 100, less than a meg. We're going to have lots of those photos, but at least if we use the compressed version, that'll help. And Tiffani, if you want to add something to that, please do. So we're hoping to stay in the Esri. Maybe I should have said that earlier. I mean, it's not against other softwares by any means, but this is what we know and kind of like what we think is low-hanging fruit as far as an application.
Is this ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online?
Well, this is AECOM's flavor of ArcGIS Online. So, because we have both a portal and AGO, but this is done in regular ArcGIS Online, but our slice of it. So.
My thought was just storage and cost.
Well, it's worth the pictures, but if there's some pretty good utilities that you can automate almost into the process. I don't know if I've actually done it, so they fire off with like an arcade for an attribution rule that will do automatic, like it's on packages that automatically just will compress a picture and convert it. Like it comes in and goes out, and they're actually super fast these days. So I imagine you guys could even maybe automate as part of an arcade or an attribution rule that compression, which might be
Would
interesting.
it compress attachments?
It can, yeah. I've
Cool.
never actually automated it that way, so I'm conjecturing I could do this, but I haven't actually done it. So,
Okay.
but I know that the tool exists, so
You might get a call from us,
I'm all in. Let's do it.
Brady.
We haven't had lunch in a long time, Rich, so it's about time, right?
Yeah, it's time. Yeah, for sure.
Does anybody else have
you
a
said-
question?
I'm sorry,
ahead,
you
Tiffany.
said you can compress it with an arcade expression?
I said I conjecture I can. I know I have the tools both in Python, C#, a bunch of different places, and I believe we could fire it off as an automated, absolutely as an automated task. I think as an automated attribution rule or an arcade expression, because arcade has the ability to do things like that, but I haven't actually done it. So I'm conjecturing.
Yeah, I wonder why hasn't it become an option in enterprise or ArcGIS Online anyway? I mean, some people need the resolution, some people don't need that resolution. And
Right.
I don't know if you were at GeoWeek, but the lead speaker was from Jane Goodall's institution, and they were talking the biggest challenges they had was with video processing. They had lots and lots of video taken of these apes, these chimps in the ground, but they didn't have a way to be able to find out what's important, like change detection. And that's where they were. That was the only place they said they were using AI was they de-resed the video so they could reduce the time it took to do the change detection. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
I think that's a good use of AI, actually.
Yeah, it's not intrusive. It's not going against somebody's copyright. Yeah, it's a good value.
Interesting. But yeah, no, we could, that it could be a pretty easy, like test pilot or something if we wanted to see if we could do that. But anyways,
Did anybody else have questions?
yeah,
Or
sorry.
anyone else online for that matter? I don't see us with very many people online yet, but I think that will change.
Well, I do know that Esri also has an AI tool in beta. Actually, they may have released it now, but for automating metadata. So maybe that could also be something that you could use that is already within your ecosystem.
So photo metadata would be captured as attributes, or
I'm not sure. You'd have to go into the beta, tool and test it out. In my experience, testing out things that Esri claims as as AI has been maybe AI adjacent at best. But
programming or algorithms, we're not picky, as long as it works.
Yeah, just some kind of automation, maybe a step up from what you currently have, or can at least move in the right direction, maybe a baby step in the right direction, and is already within the ARC info, ARC ecosystem that you have.
Yeah, love it. Thank you. It's a great suggestion.
Michael Dawson at Douglas County's in that beta with Esri right now. And he says it's actually pretty good, but I don't think it's out of beta yet. So but he also has, like Esri's AI people working on the project with him. So amazing how success happens quickly that way. But but it's it might be if you wanted to reach out or connect up, he could give you an idea on it.
Yeah.
Because I'm supposed to be seeing that soon. We just got together. I'm excited to see what he's doing with that, because that might be really handy. It's supposed to be a pretty big evolutionary leap in their AI, so hopefully it is.
Yeah.
Rich, we started you a little early and we were leaving you off a little bit late. I hope that's not a problem. I think
Not a problem.
I hope the discussion's helpful for you. It certainly is helpful for us because it opens up a window of interest that I think is common. How do we handle all this information that we're getting that may or may not be organized, and we don't know yet how it's going to be used? Yeah. So I find it helpful, and I hope your mining clients find it helpful so that they get the value out of what they've put into it, and can often kind of get the most value out of that.
Totally agree. And
Any last thoughts or comments, Rich, Tiffany, Weather?
Thank you.
I think we're good.
That's-
Thank you.
That's great. We really enjoy having you here.
So-
Yeah, and that way that we have online, sometimes we're not quite sure if we're being heard clearly, but we are really grateful for your willingness to present today, this morning, and for what you're able to share with us in your experiences and also your issues of concern.
Pleasure's ours.
Thanks. We'll let
Thank
you
you.
go. I'm going to close the recording. Thank you very much. If I can get there. Come on. Gotta be easier than that, right? Right.